Okay, Matt, how's Sydney, dude? How's the office over there? What's going on?
Just some squirrels trying to find nuts, brother.
There's some squirrels over there trying to find some nuts. Well, at least
Yeah,
what I always say is at least when you have the right skills, when you know how to work with human behavior, the right questions, you're not a blind squirrel like most
exactly.
people are. You're a squirrel that has eyes that can go and gather all the nuts because you know what to do, let alone the blind
Exactly.
squirrels. All right. So we're going to open this up. We got to hear from the legend himself here. We got to hear from Matt, our CEO, the guy that always wears the Chicago Bulls hats. You know,
I didn't realize my mom was so active in the Facebook group.
I know, right? So you do realize the Bulls are not the greatest team anymore. This is not Michael.
From a Kansas City Chiefs fan, that is rich.
I know the Chiefs are not doing good this year, but hey, I'm also a Phoenix Cardinals fan, and we're 7-1 out here, so I can jump back between the Chiefs and the Cardinals, just kind of who's ever better for the month.
You can ride the bandwagon. I get it.
You can ride the bandwagon. Now, if you're brand new to our Facebook group, maybe you're watching from somewhere else. So I'm the chairman and founder of Seventh Level. This is our CEO, Matt, also my business partner. And we're an organization that helps people exactly like you. So we help salespeople like you, sales managers, executives, coaches, business owners. We help you transform the way you and your team sell by learning specific skilled questions, techniques that work with human behavior. This is called neuro-emotional persuasion. Questions, NEPQ. If you hear that, that's what that means.
Absolutely.
You choose the right tonality, put your prospects at ease, and actually gets them to want to engage with you, to want to open up to you. And eventually it triggers them to persuade themselves that they want what you're offering. Doesn't matter the industry. We train hundreds of different industries at this point. In fact, Marco and I, our chief revenue officer, was just on a Zoom call with kind of a smaller cap pharmaceutical company. They got about 150 reps. So we're kind of all over the place. Train everybody that sells anything. Now, if you want to know more questions, if you have more questions about how we can help you sell a lot more of your products and services than you are now, like you probably get thousands of testimonials, there were 4,100 something right now, in case you haven't noticed. A lot of them are in this Facebook group that people post daily. In the comment section, post hashtag NEPQ, hashtag NEPQ. Either myself, Matt, our CEO, or Marco, our chief revenue officer, will message you more details to see if we can help you as well. Okay,
all right, so we have our first question, Jeremy. So it's specific, but I'll make it a bit more broad. So when you're talking to someone, and so this is about home security. So I watched a rep today ask homeowners if getting home security is something that they were going to do for their home, and they said no, just straight up, no, I don't need that. Is there a right approach for that? Should you be pursuing that? Should you go through questions, or do you just kind of accept that this isn't a prospect that is in need of your services right now?
Well, first of all, you would never ask that question. That's just a horrible question. I don't know who asking that type of question, selling home security, is just a no, because why would you even ask, is getting a home security something that you're going to be doing for the home? Like, why would you ask that in the first place? Now, I need to know, is that person a door-to-door salesperson, or are they scheduled coming into the home? Because we would never ask that question, even if we were on the door, even if they had a scheduled appointment, or if they're an outbound lead, inbound lead. We would never ask, do you want a home security system? That would be
let's break that down. Why not?
It'd be like me walking up to somebody's door and be like, hey, have you ever thought about getting a Lamborghini? Or hey, have you ever thought about one of these food processors? If I sell food processors, like it's not a question. Like, we need to find out what they have now to actually solve that problem. We would never just want to straight off ask that question like that, because how does that help you engage the prospect? Because what if they say, no, I really haven't been looking, because you're the one that came to them if you're on the door. So of course they're going to say no, because you're the one that came to them. So it's just, you're putting yourself in an awkward position.
I think binary choices are a really old school sales tactic.
Yeah.
Because they're designed to not waste the sales guy's time, and I think put people into little boxes where it's Visa or MasterCard, yes or no, these binary choice things. But in reality, they're just going to choose the one that.
Well, yeah, you're not going to waste any time, but you're not going to make any sales. In fact, you're going to have so much time, you make hardly any sales and you're broke. That's how much time you have.
Exactly. Okay, I've got a question. Do you feel like there are any industries that are particularly hard to sell, or do you just feel like it's kind of we're selling people, or are there other industries where it takes more, I guess, skill than other industries?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you sell a $5 magazine door to door, you're going to, the more expensive your products and services are, is going to require more skill because your prospects have more risk and fear in their mind that if they make a mistake, that something bad's going to happen. Like, if you're selling a $5 magazine subscription door to door, there's really no risk for the prospect. It's like a $20 magazine. But let's say if you're coming around, let's say even door to door, and you're selling home security, and they have to sign up for $80 a month for a 5-year contract, that's a little bit more of a risk. Now, is it more of a risk if, let's say, just on with the pharmaceutical company, if a doctor, goes with your drug and something happens where it doesn't really work, and then it costs the hospital millions of dollars in lawsuits and lost time, and maybe it causes them to have so much issues that they have to have operations they have to pay for, and they make a bad buying mistake. So the more expensive the product and services are, requires a higher skill level for sure.
Okay, and like, what do you think is, I guess, a really good foundational starting point or industry in order for someone who's, like, say, younger and wants to get into sales? Do you feel like, no, I'm not talking from an education perspective, because obviously we know that NEPQ is the best starting point, but is it door to door? Is it cold calling? Like what would be, like, if you could do your time again?
Yeah.
Like, what would be the best ascension model for you?
I think if somebody's really young, let's say if you're 18, 19, 20, 21, like I got my start in door to door when I was 21. I think that's a good place. I think door to door, or like the high ticket industry, like triaging, cold calling, I think those areas are really good for like a brand new person to really get into when they first start. Because if you're an 18-year-old, you're not going to have a cybersecurity firm out of San Francisco hire you without any of that prior experience, right? You're not going to get a position in a company selling B2B deals at 18 or 19 if you have no previous experience. So if you're looking for the experience, high ticket industry, triaging, DMing, door to door, different jobs like that, that's usually where 18 or 19 or 20-year-old that's a good place to start for sure.
Yeah, I think it's about getting volume of interaction, right? So you want to be able to talk to lots of people where the stakes are not super high. I think one of the really bad things that you can do is put people in situations where they're going to be like the main sales rep or closing something expensive, where the leads are expensive and all that kind of stuff straight away. The pressure to perform is really, really high, and they just haven't had that volume of interaction with people to be able to handle that well, and they're going to end up quitting sales.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing with my son. It's like, eventually I want to get in and help with the company and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. I mean, maybe when you're 40, but like when you're 18, you're going to probably get a job. Like, I'll get you a job for a company we train that sells something door to door. Or, you're going to get a job DMing and booking appointments, and you're going to have to learn like the basic foundations and be able to work your way up and prove yourself because you've learned the right skills. And I think you're right. Like those type of jobs, you go door to door, it doesn't require any money. There's no leads there. You're creating your own leads by going door to door. So now in the same sense, you've got to learn the right skills though, because company, if they hire 20 reps to go in the city and you're not performing, well, guess what? They're going to chop you pretty soon because you're wasting the doors. Like you're wasting the neighborhoods away that somebody could be selling. So I think door to door, I think that's a good place. DMing, cold calling, those type of positions when you're young. I think that's good. I got another question here from Chris. What if you guys could go back in time? What is the number one sales advice you would give yourself? Matt, let's start with you. What's the number one sales advice you'd give yourself if you went far back in time?
Well, I would have learned, and besides the obvious of going, like, I would have learned NEPQ earlier. But in saying that, like, back when I was starting,
it didn't exist. You didn't know about
it. Right? So I would say, like,
I was in the field getting it ready to exist.
Exactly. So I would say there'd be two things. One would be like, just like consistently invest in your education, because like sales is one of the few industries where there is a really, really, really direct correlative. It's a direct correlation between learning and earning.
Oh, 100%.
I was told by personal trainer mentors, the more you learn, the more you earn, and become a better trainer and you make more money. That's not true. As if you're a personal trainer, like you can be the best personal trainer. If you can't communicate that to people, you will make no money. You can be a terrible personal trainer. If you're good at communicating, you will make good money, right? So that's the thing. The second thing that I would tell myself is that time takes time, and not to be frustrated, right, by a perceived lack of like speed of getting better, right? Because like I've been selling for a long time, you've been selling for a long time. There's been a lot of interactions with people, and sometimes like you need the skill sets. Yes, you have to learn the skill sets. Some skill sets just take time to develop because you have to be able to recognize the patterns of what you're seeing, and you just have to see a lot of puzzles to know how to put them together.
Yeah.
And so like I think it can be hard for younger people they want to get here now.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, you can get here, but there is a ladder that you need to climb to get there, and give yourself a break if you're not closing at 60% after being in sales for 2 years. It's like, hey, dude, you're still a baby. It's fine. Like
it's so true. I mean, we have a rep on our done for you side there in the sales sniper, Yash. I met him at the ClickFunnels event when we got the big award there, the 2CXX, the 8-figure award. And I'm sitting there talking to him, and I didn't even realize, but the dude I think he just barely turned 17, something like that. And he's making 10 grand a month. So, he's like, man, I said, hey, I think I want to interview you sometime in the Facebook group. It's really impressive. You're a 17-year-old kid. You're still in high school. You're working for us. You're making $10,000 a month in commissions. You're out earning a lot of people that are in their 50s, right? That have been in sales for 30 years because you have the right skills. They don't. And he's like, I know, but I don't want to be on there until I set a goal that I'm going to be making at least 30,000 a month in commissions before I'm going to be on there. I'm like, dude, you're freaking 17. Like you just the sales a year ago. You're 17. In 3 or 4 years from now,
it's hard to understand when you are 17. Though.
I'm like, you don't understand where you're at compared to everybody else who's still in high school, like getting drunk on the weekends, right?
He'll be a billionaire. I've said that before. He will be a billionaire.
I'm just like,
he'll run some sort of evil genius scam.
Yeah, exactly. He'll do one of those things.
It's one or the other.
One or the other. But I'm like, you don't understand. Like in 5 years from now, just because of the experiences and the more people you get around and the more skills you learn from us and the more you start to conceptually understand them because you just had way more calls and interacted with more prospects, you're just going to get there. You don't understand the difference. So I think you're right, especially with young salespeople, is they just don't give themselves enough time. And number one, most of them don't have the right skills, especially when they start. So they kind of bang their head into the sand there, pound it in. All right, let's go to the next question here. We've got from Luke, what's the difference between someone who's done sales for a couple years and is doing an average income compared to somebody like Marco? Marco's our chief revenue officer, who has been able to make an above average income in any industry. Well, making over $1 million a year in commissions is definitely a little bit above average. Are there small nuances that need to be picked up, like body language? Well, let's talk about that. Matt, are there just small nuances, or is it like, going from traditional sales techniques over here to, NEPQ, human behavior?
Yeah, listen, I think people like to make a science experiment out of sales. I don't think it's as complicated as what people, or at least in my mind. Like I've never done NLP. I've never done psychology. I haven't studied body language. Like people will say, oh, your body language. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And with Marco, it's just an understanding of what you're trying to do in a sales process, and like being able to listen intently enough because you understand your process really well. I think what I hear is when I watch people sell or when I listen to them, I can hear their internal monologue drowning out the prospect because they haven't done the work to really understand their script, where they're at, what they're trying to get out of it, and how to move them down effectively. So they're constantly like thinking, oh, what am I going to do next? And this, and like they're reading their script, and like the person's like vomiting information to them. And all they have to do is just take that stuff and then just go, what do you mean by that? And that's it. Like, that's what makes a great salesperson. It's that little, what did you mean by that? Because you're listening intently. Sales is like a jigsaw puzzle. They give you all the pieces. You just have to put it together.
Well, it's understanding, human behavior. It's understanding what's behind. It's not just finding out what is the prospect why or what's going on. It's really finding out what's behind that. That's where the sale is made. And most salespeople don't know the right questions to ask, and they really don't know how to ask them. They'll ask the question, but they come across scripted. They come across like too consultative, like proper, and it's not human, and the prospect just shuts down. So, Luke, to answer your question, with Marco, he's learned NEPQ. Before NEPQ, he made good 6-figure income as a salesperson. But when he learned NEPQ, that took him over 7 figures in income as a commissioned only salesperson. He wasn't an owner, like literally like just selling for a company, straight commissions make over 7 figures. So it's learning the right questions, but it's also learning how to ask them, when to ask them, and really the delivery of the questions that make the difference. All right. Let's see. Can you briefly mention the 3.0 discount until the 8th? Some peeps are wondering. I don't know much about that because I know that Marco does that on his end as a chief revenues officer. I think we're offering like a 1 or 2K discount on our advanced NEPQ 3.0 training until the 8th. I don't know why. I don't think we should give anybody a damn discount with all the money they make after they go through the training. But what's the reason why we're even given a discount? I don't like this.
I think it has something to do with the retreat for all the staff, but we'll leave that to a different day because we haven't actually ironed out all the details yet.
I don't even know all that stuff. All right, heard you guys talk about Sales Sniper, but what is that exactly? Matt, you're the CEO, so why don't you go over what Sales Sniper is?
Sales Sniper is the done for you arm of 7th level. So I was a sniper. That's where the name came from. It sort of had a really good relevance with being a highly targeted kind of sales business.
Yeah.
So it's what I started before I was a part of 7th level, and then we kind of merged the 2 companies together. So we have a sales training wing, and then we have a wing where we have a sales training. We train companies, train people, and then we have a whole area of the business where we just do the sales for companies. So we hire our own reps, train our own reps, and we have all that stuff. Yeah.
So here's a question. How would you approach multiple estimates when they aren't apples to apples? I'm in cabinet refacing, and a lot of people want to know pricing, also know pricing for new cabinets. Yeah. So whoever's asking that question, let me try to find it because it doesn't.
It says, Eric Gunther, how would you approach multiple estimates when they aren't apples for apples? I'm in cabinet refocusing. A lot of people. Okay. So basically you can resurface your cabinets or you can buy new ones, right? So they're very, very different quotes.
Yeah.
So they're going to get the same outcome, but very different ways of doing the same thing.
Yeah. So we train. So he's asking, how would you approach multiple estimates when they aren't apples to apples? Is he asking like how to put that in the presentation? I'm not sure what he's asking.
Well, I think it would be like, how do you approach the conversation when they're going to be looking at new cabinets versus resurfacing? So I think really it's about like in that problem and solution awareness phase, how do we structure the call to where we see the benefit of resurfacing rather than just getting new?
Yeah, it depends on what you're wanting to offer them, right? Like, are they looking for resurfacing or are they looking for new? So if your company does both, because we train a lot of companies in your space, we got a company down in Florida, we just started training 6 months ago. They're already up by 80, 90%. So it depends on what you're actually offering them. If you offer both things when you go in, and because most of those are preset appointments, they're coming into the home, they've answered some ad, they've seen a radio ad, or they have somebody from Home Depot that gives them a flyer, and then they're invited out to give an estimate. So when you come out, it's finding out what their situation is. You learn how to ask situation questions, which we teach all in our virtual training course. You learn to find out what their problems are, like why are they even looking in the first place? Like what's behind that? What's causing their problem? How's it affecting them? You'd be surprised. People are like, oh, selling cabinets, selling windows is not emotional. Oh, well, it's because you don't know how to ask the right questions to bring up the emotions. Like, especially when you're selling to a female that's talking about her kitchen and windows and those type of things, it's massive emotion.
Yeah. I think the rationale question is really beneficial for this guy because he wants them to resurface, but they're also going to inquire about new cabinetry, but he doesn't give them new cabinetry. He resurfaces. So what I would do is in that rationale question, just so I can see the rationale behind why you might be looking to resurface these like quality hardwood cabinets that you have. Yeah. What's the main reason for doing that rather than just ripping them out and putting some, chipboard ones in? Right. Yeah. So you could do it like that. Yeah. Right.
And so because then it triggers them to like tell him.
No, I want the hardwood ones. I want the good ones. These are original feature. I want to you know what I mean? So you can set questions up in a way, Eric, I think your name was, where you can kind of get them to justify your position. If you word questions like that in a certain way, because if they are, especially in like an older home, they're going to have hardwood cabinetry and you're going to resurface that quality cabinetry. If someone gets new stuff, they're just going to put shitty chipboard stuff in, right? So because it's cheaper and all that kind of stuff. So especially if you know you're in situations like that rationale question, if you don't know what that is, just type hashtag NEPQ. Somebody will send you a resource and have a chat to see if maybe some of our training can possibly help you out. But I think that would be a really quality question. It comes kind of after problem awareness. The rationale question would be good for that.
Yeah, that's a good question for that, for sure. That's all in our virtual training platforms as well. All right, Gabe asks, when cold calling, how do you deal with the very dominant personality to open the conversation? Let me handle this, because I've done a lot of cold calling in my previous sales life and my career. So typically, most business owners, like if you're calling on a business, most of the business owners are going to be more of a dominant personality, more A-type driven, because they're a leader, they're a risk taker. So typically you have to, when you come across on the phone, like most salespeople do, and I'm talking 99.999%, when they do a cold call, is the standard pitch. Hey, is Jane there? Oh, hey, Jane, it's Jeremy Miner. I'm with XYZ company. And the reason why I'm calling you today, sir, is, and you just start going and you just start talking and hoping and praying that something you're going to say is going to trigger him to just keep listening and be like, okay, yeah. Well, most of the time, as you know, that doesn't work. So you want to stop doing what doesn't work. It does, if 1 person out of 100 that works on it doesn't mean that it works. Okay, it's not a very good.
But sales is a numbers game, Jeremy.
Not a very good batting average to strike out 99 times and then hit 1 base hit. Like, that's not a good batting average. I want everybody to understand that. All right. So we want to come up with what's called a problem statement, Gabe. Now, if you're in our virtual training courses, like our advanced NEPQ 3.0, we teach you all of that. Like, we've got, I think, 3 or 4 hours even in that platform just on straight cold calling and how to construct the problem statement for any industry, because we train a lot of that. So you want to focus on 1 or 2 problems that anybody you're talking to on the phone can identify with that triggers them to actually want to engage in a normal conversation, because they don't feel like you're there to sell them. They feel like you're there to maybe see if you can actually help them. They actually feel that intent. It's not just you saying that, but they feel that intent from the question. So when they pick up the phone, let's say if it's the actual prospect I'm actually talking to, the gatekeeper transfers me over, or they even answer the phone because you have the number directly, I'm going to say something like this. And like I said, I don't know what industry you're in, so I'm just going to make up something. Hey, is John there? Hey, John, it's just Jeremy Miner. I was wondering if you could possibly, I guess, help me out for a moment. And you have to act confused. Like I always say, you have to act like the old man in the gas station that doesn't have GPS, that's lost. Like, you act like confused. People, when you act confused, come to your rescue. Okay. Oh, sure. How can I help you? Or what they'll say, sure. How can I help you? Or what's this all about? And then you simply say this. Well, I'm not quite sure if you're the person I should be communicating with, but I called your company to see if you guys would be open to look at any possible hidden gaps in your blank that could be causing you to blank. And I slow down that. I make it conversational. Okay. Now, when we say that, you're going to get typically 1 of 3 responses. It doesn't matter who it is. You're like, who is this again? Or what's this all about? Or how do you mean by hidden gaps? And that's all I want, because it starts an engagement. And then I say this, I apologize. I'm like, I apologize. I didn't mean to offend you. What I do is, how a lot of companies, and then I go over what's called a personalized intro. Now, we teach all this in our virtual training course. Personalized intro, 2 or 3 generic problems that they can identify with, they would know about, and how briefly what you do solves those. Okay. And that typically will cause them to be like, well, can you tell me a little bit more about how you solved that? Or what did you mean when you said this? Or how did you mean by that? And just say, oh, yeah. And John, to be frank, I'm not quite sure we could even help you yet. I know a little bit more about what you're doing in this area because there's just some companies, there's just not much we can do. You know what I mean by that? And they're like, oh yeah, for sure. And then boom, you're right into a freaking conversation half the
It's
time.
very, very disarming. It's not salesy. It's not like, it's just like it sort of naturally flows into a conversation, right?
It's all about disarming the prospect.
Yeah, exactly. There is can you make a suggestion in the problem awareness stage to help them identify the problem you want to solve for them if they are not aware of it?
Can you make a suggestion in the problem?
Okay, so I think I know. So I think a lot of people in the problem awareness phase, because they struggle to interrupt the prospects, right?
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is they end up coming up with lots of problems and sometimes they can't fix it. Like they'll give you an example. This is what I think he's saying. If I'm selling sales training, and they start talking about their marketing, I need to get rid of that conversation.
Because it's not helping you or them.
Exactly, right? So if we start talking about lead flow and lead quality, it has nothing to do with what we're doing. But a lot of salespeople will think, oh, this is a problem. I'll bring this out and see what impact. But at the end of the day, that's just going to cause an objection of, well, I'll fix my marketing and then I'll fix my sales.
Yeah.
Right. So I think for you, man, it's not about like a specific question. It's about understanding the problem that you solve and learning how to funnel them into it quickly. Right. And so that comes from your connecting stage and your situation stage. Right. So it's like the connection stage is like, what are you here for? What rough outcome do you want? Take them through to situation, which is what are you currently doing what are you currently doing to get that outcome? And then tying in that with like, what are you doing about it? How long have you been doing it? And what kind of, is it working? And then from there, problem awareness.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Like, do you like what you're doing about that particular thing to get that outcome? How's it working for you? Is there like, just kind of work me through it. So it's a stacking effect. There's no one question. You have to take them through the process. And if you understand that process, then they'll be able to sharpen
and if they talk about one of their problems, then it's, you have to get them back on track, but you can also stop and say, can I make a suggestion to you? Sure, go ahead. Have you ever considered that instead of this, that it could be that? Are you open to looking at it from that way? So you can like rephrase that. So there are different ways to rephrase where they start thinking like, oh, maybe it is that problem. So there are ways to do that. All right, that's good.
Okay. What is your best inner game or mindset hacks to be a savage sales rep? You might not like my answer, but
okay. Let's see. Okay, let's see what your answer is first.
I think mindset is a crutch that people use to underperform. I think that they put hurdles in their own way. Like, oh man, I just wasn't feeling it today. Hey, what is happening here? You have a goal. Okay, this is the trick. Have a goal, right? And you work backwards to figure out what activities need to be made to get that goal.
Yeah.
You put that time in your diary and you do it, right? And then like, if you're really into your process, like remember when I first started selling NEPQ, because I was in Perth at the time, I'd have to get up at 3 a.m. to take my first sales calls at like 3:15.
Yeah.
And so, right. So I would literally be like, hello. Like that was me, right? I was dirt tired, but I made the sales like 88% close rate, right? Because I just followed my process. It doesn't matter if my wife left me, if I was tired, if I was hungover, whatever, I don't drink, but I would have been fine and my sales calls would have been the exact same. I remember being so tired once that I was off camera and I was like this selling. That I was like, okay, man, was that having an impact on you? And how's that right? And I made the sales because I just followed my process. Like that's it. And I just like turned off and I was like, I just do the thing.
I see so many sales trainers like, oh, it's all about your mindset. It's all about your mindset. It's all about your mindset. Like in my mind, like if I'm looking at 100% puzzle, I'm going to say mindset's 10% of your results. I'm going to say your skill set's the other 90% every single time. Because I know so many salespeople that read personal development every day. They go to Tony Robbins. They listen to some great pump up music. They get motivated. They journal. They meditate. And when the prospect answers the phone and they don't know what to say and they don't have the right questions to ask, they get punched in the freaking face. And all that personal development, all the mindset hacks crumble like a house of cards within a few seconds. Yeah. But I see so many other salespeople that know the right questions to ask. They know the right questions. They know the tonality. They know all that, but they're on prescription medication for depression that are outselling other reps that are on I love Tony Robbins, but that are on like personal development bandwagon 10-1, and they're on depression medication. Okay. So it's all about the questions you're asking and how you're asking them. It's not just about like, oh, I've got to get pumped up and all this stuff. When I think of mindset, all I think about is when I go into a call, I'm a problem finder and a problem solver. How can I help this person solve their problems that maybe they don't even know they have yet? How can my questions do that? That's my mindset. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. So hopefully that gave you some good.
I think the problem, I'll just do one more rant. I think the problem is that like that whole industry has created a self-licking ice cream where if you're not successful, it's because you have a poor mindset. If you are successful, it's because you have a good mindset. And if you are successful and you're like me and you think that the whole mindset thing is kind of a load of shit, and they go, that's just because you have a good mindset. Right? And so like, I don't have a pre-call routine. My pre-call routine is opening Zoom.
Yep.
Right? I don't think people need them. I think if you want to do it, great. Like, but I don't really believe in the whole thing. And again, people who are mindset, people just go, that's just because you have a great mindset. And so like, it's a whole self-licking ice cream kind of snake oil thing that I can't really put my finger on and say, if you do this, you'll get better. Whereas if I teach someone NEPQ and I teach them the foundations of how to be a good salesperson, I teach them the skills and the activities they need to do, then I know that they can be successful. Whereas if I just talk to them about stick-to-itiveness, right, or whatever, and be like, hey man, like,
there's a great book on mindset. You should really read it. Like,
if you read The Secret and then breathe deeply for 10 minutes before a sales call, you make the sale. It's like, it's just not going to happen. It just makes no difference. Anyway. Okay.
I love that. All right, let's go to.
I rant about that stuff.
Man. I know. Me and you are just. We think identical. I see so many sales trainers like, oh, I've got a great mindset hack and blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, dude. Like, you probably never sold that much when you're in sales. Anyways, that's a whole nother thing. I sell PM power gen products, large scale, 1 million plus, all bid and tender. How's the best way to try to sell something like that? Well, first, it's the same thing we've been talking about. You have to start thinking that you're a problem finder and problem solver rather than a product pusher. So we have to learn the right questions to ask at the right time. So if you're talking to those companies that you're selling to, you've got to find out what their current situation is. Those are called situation questions. We teach all that in our virtual training courses. You've got to find out what their problems are, if any, because realize most of the prospects you talk to probably don't realize they even have a problem when you first start talking to them, right? Or maybe they know they have a problem, but maybe they don't know how bad the problem is or what the consequences are if they don't do anything about solving it. When you learn NEPQ, and like I said, in our virtual training courses, like our clients are doing, not only are you going to help them see that they have one problem, not by telling them, because that's going to go in one ear out the other, but by asking them the right questions that allow them to tell themselves that not only do they have one problem, but now they've told themselves they've got 2, 3, or 4 other problems, which makes you look extremely valuable in their mind. So it opens them up to want to engage. So when I say best way to try to sell something like that, it doesn't matter if you're selling that, if you're selling internet, if you're selling homes, if you're selling SaaS, if you're selling pharmaceuticals, if you're selling medical device, if you're selling boats, I don't care what it is. It's all the same to us. If you're selling lead generation, it doesn't matter. Coaching, it doesn't matter. It's about helping them find out what their current situation is, their current state, where they want to go. That's called their objective state. What's the gap? All of these problems that your questioning ability has allowed them to see that they had. And that gets them to the end of that call or appointment or multiple appointments if you're in a B2B sell environment to realize in their mind that it's far more risky for them to do nothing at all, stay in the status quo, not get the money together to purchase what you're offering to solve their problems, than it is just to get the funding together, pay for it, solve their problems, and get where they want to go, which is more risky. So that allows them to view that it's far more risky for them to do nothing than it is to go with your service. Hopefully that helps.
So this could be an interesting question. It's not like directly sales related, but it's more like once you have success in sales, it becomes success related. So what I would love to ask you, because I had an interview with a guy called Tay Sweat a while ago, who's a really, really successful investor. And we do the sales for him over at Sales Night. Yeah. And I was like, I asked him how he views money, right? And so I'd love to know that as you become more successful or when you were younger, before you'd kind of figured out this stuff out, and now,
Yeah.
like, what's your view on making money or spending money, or like, I guess, how do you view? Is it a tool? Is it a resource? Like, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things that money can be used for. I think when you're younger, I think, when I was 23 years old, about 22, 23, I started making about 400,000 a year in commissions. Okay. As a 22-year-old, this is back in like 2002, 2001. So I felt like I was Donald Trump or, Jeff, the billionaire, Bill Gates or whatever. So I just spent money frivolously. I'd go out to eat all the time. I would do this. I just never budgeted. I didn't know what I didn't know, right? Nobody had ever taught me that. So I realized quickly after a few years that the more money I made, it seemed like the more money I would spend. So like a couple years later, I made like 780,000 in commissions. And it wasn't until I got into my late 20s, after I had lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in like stupid investments, because my friends would be like, hey, dude, I want to start this company and we're going to manufacture new soccer balls and it's going to be the soccer ball of the world. And I just need 150 grand. I'd be like, sweet, 30% ownership, 100, here you go. And then 6 months later, gone, out of business. And it wasn't until I learned that, man, I'm really good at making money, but I'm not so good at like investing that money and making it grow. And that's when I went out and found experts who were really good at that. Okay. So I went out and found a financial, planner that was the third in the nation. He still is. He's like second or third for Ameriprise. It's like $1 trillion company here in the United States, management. And I started investing him every year on average, 20%, 22%. And then I started learning how to invest in real estate. I had to learn that on my own. I started reading books and going to courses. But I'm like, nobody really cares about my money like I do. So I decided, like, look, I'm risk averse. Like, I'll take some risk, but I'm not going to risk like 80% of my investments in these startups. I'll take 5% and maybe I'll invest that into like crypto and other startups. But the other 95% of my investments, I'm going to do more secure real estate. And I've got this great financial planner. He's the expert. I don't have time to read 100 books on the stock market and be able to analyze charts. I don't know how to do that. I know how to train people how to sell. So you find the expert, you educate yourself as well, so you know a little bit about what's going on. But I say you find the expert and let them focus on what they're good at, and you focus on what you're good at. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that as salespeople start to learn more skills, there's that kind of period where, because I see it as kind of a hockey stick, right? Like people tend to, it's a grind. Something happens and it tweaks and then it goes like that.
Yeah.
Like it's really quick, but it can take 5 years to get to that point where it just goes like that. Or it can take, for someone like TC, it takes 6 months.
Yeah. Right? Well, when you have the right training, it helps for sure. So I went from 400,000 a year in commissions, after about 2 years. That's when I was starting to incorporate human behavior and psychology into the sales process. That's where NEPQ comes from. That was the beginning of NEPQ. And like 3 years later, bumped up to 785,000. Took me a couple years. Then I went to 1.3 million in commissions. That was in 2009. Then by 2012, I started making about 2.5 to 3 million a year in commissions. In about 2012, 13, 14, it just kept going up month after month. But it's because I kept learning and I kept learning. I would eliminate. I'm like, this question doesn't really work here that well. It's kind of trigger resistance. I need to replace that and relanguage it. And then here you go. Here's NEPQ. So we have a guy like TC, who's one of our clients that now works for us, who actually does selling for one of our accounts where we hire salespeople for a company that we work with. And, he went from making 0 sales because he'd never sold anything before, a kind of shy introvert guy, got into sales and making 3 or 4 grand a month. And now what is he making per month now? I don't even know.
30 to 50.
Yeah, 30 to 50K a month in commissions every single month. So definitely helps when you have the right skills. And that's within 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. His rise has been incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
Another one, like Luke Badman, who's here. I've seen him like really, really just kind of skyrocket. It's funny, like when someone like Luke, for example, has a dog training background. So he actually understands behavior. So
okay. Yeah,
like when he came in and started on the NEPQ, it was really quick for him.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was like, like he could relate it back to what he was doing with dog training. And so for him, like the skill level came up really, really quickly. But yeah, so I think it's just always an interesting thing, like how the I guess your headspace or the way that you perceive money changes, especially when your confidence and ability to refill the bucket gets very, very high. So you tend to not worry about emptying the bucket as much.
It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah, well, like when I spent 80% of my entire cash reserve on training with you.
I remember that. That was about 2 years ago.
Yeah, something like that. So it was I had 50 grand in the bank and it was 40,000. I paid up front, and I paid up front on purpose because I wanted to feel the pain of only having 10 grand in the bank, having 2 kids, a mortgage, all that kind of stuff, right? So for me, it was like a motivator. Made myself uncomfortable in order to kind of make me push forward. I must have gone through that portal friggin' 300 times.
You went from making 20 grand a month in commissions to 50 grand a month in commissions to 80, then to 100. So that's what happens.
Yeah. We'll do one last question. If you identified your prospect as low income at the start of the call, would you consider doing a Grant Cardone smash and spending most of the time taking to the objection handling process? Stick to the process. The answer is just stick to the process. Just take them through, because if someone is of a low income and you're selling something that's either beyond their means, which hopefully we're not, or something that's just at the upper ends of their means, then chances are getting them over the line through a really hard selling tactic will get a down payment or a deposit or a partial payment, and then it'll be a refund, or they won't fulfill.
If you even get that.
Yeah.
So if you find out that they don't have, if they're giving you buying signals, if they're like, is this going to cost any money? Or, I don't have any money, I'm going homeless, or, I'm 18 and I live in my parents' basement and I don't have a job. You need to financially qualify them. You don't even want to go through the whole process. You want to find out if they can even get the funding. So let's say, for example, if you sold, let's say if you sold Amazon. We were just talking about TC, who sells Amazon. So you're selling Amazon training as an example, and you find out that the kid gets on there. He's 19. He's living with his mom and dad, and has a minimum wage job. You need to find out if they can get the funding. So I might stop the call and be like, okay, so first of all, Luke, I need to make sure that we can actually help you. I mean, I'm assuming you understand when you start your own business, with Amazon, that it's going to require, capital or credit to put into the business to make money. With your situation, what type of funding do you have or can get access to put into the business so you can make more money? Oh man, I don't have any money. I've got like $50 in my account. Yeah, I mean, with what we do, you'll need around $6,000 when you start to be able to profit from the business. Is that something you can come up with if it fits into what you're looking for? Oh, there's no way. Go to the next person. There's nothing you can do. That's going to be completely different than if somebody gives you an objection, let's say, and you sell the same thing, but they have a decent, stable job. That's going to be something where we might have to help them resolve the concern and then go through the process at the same time. Does that help?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Matt. I got to get out of here. Talk to everybody soon.
See you guys. Bye.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed these, here's another you can watch right over here. Join our free Sales Revolution group. Click the link below, join us, and we're going to help you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you real soon.